Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whatever. Welcome to the the November meeting, technical meeting of the Wrekin Branch of the Institution of Agricultural Engineers. As Dave has already basically said, that during the presentation, if we sort of put ourselves on mute, I think it would be perhaps the best idea if we have any questions, perhaps to put them in the chat, and then we can sort of pick them up, and I can invite you at the end to someone to come and present your question to Jack as and when. So I think with all that sort of those bits out of the way, it's my pleasure to welcome Jack Howard to the meeting and his presentation, which I'll let Jack sort of introduce himself and his speciality and his sort of palmaris, as you might say. Needless to say, we're talking about precision agriculture, his interests within that, and telematics and artificial intelligence. He's a specialist, project specialist with John Deere. So I will hand over to Jack, if I may.
Thank you very much, Simon. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me this evening. And yeah, I'll just go right ahead and share my screen. I've got a presentation prepared. Okay. So hopefully we've got a full screen presentation now. So once again, thanks for having me. My name's Jack Howard, and I am the product sales specialist for Precision Ag Technologies. And I'm responsible for the UK and Ireland. I'm based out of Langer in Nottinghamshire, where our sales headquarters is for the UK and Ireland, and also our parts distribution centre for that region as well. So we've got a sales office and training centre there. I'm sure one or two of you have been to see us there before. But yeah, I've been with John Deere for just over 5 years now. I started off actually doing work experience after I'd finished my school, finished my A-levels, and that was back in 2011. I did a summer work experience placement with the marketing team there, and then after which they invited me back to apply for the university student internship there. So I went off to university. I studied at Newcastle University, and yeah, I came back from my year placement with John Deere at Langer, and then spent just over a year there. And then after I graduated from Newcastle, I returned and took a graduate job back in Langer again, working with John Deere. So almost sandwiched university with working for John Deere, to be honest. And yeah, I've been back for just over 5 years now since leaving university. So I had a small stint in working for the aftermarket and service side for about 6 or 7 months, and then ever since then, for just under 5 years, I've been working in the field of precision ag, or what we used to call it. We've sort of had a rebrand, AMS, Agricultural Management Solutions. So it's come a long way in 5 years, and I just want to spend the next sort of 45 minutes just kind of letting you have a bit of an insight into where we are, what are our focuses at John Deere, not just in the UK, but also globally. So, and what technology we've got, we're currently working with, really. So a few things I'll be talking about, as Simon mentioned, JD Link, which is our telematics solution, and how we connect our machines, but also bringing in the connectivity of farms, offices, fleets, and fields and crops. What sort of data can you collect? Do customers collect? Do dealers and ourselves as the sort of global dairy company, what do we collect? And running through the different types of data and how we manage that, and how we sort of turn it around to provide value back to the machine owners and operators. We have a brand in John Deere Connected Support. So just a run through that and a description of what that trademark means and how we deliver connected support to our green and yellow customers. And a unique feature that we're very lucky to have, is expert alerts. Mention of artificial intelligence, and that really is probably not what you think of artificial intelligence, like a robot. But expert alerts is a little bit more unseen artificial intelligence, behind the scenes, managing machine downtime. And then a brief look into agronomic farm management, and we have a platform in that space called the Operations Centre, and how we manage that sort of data that's collected, whether through telematics or otherwise, how we manage that on the computer and on mobile apps to provide that information to customers in all shapes and forms. So firstly, a look into telematics. JD Link is telematics, and I'll slide on there. What is telematics before I go any further? Well, it's and this is a kind of technology definition, a branch of information technology dealing with the long distance transmission of computerized data. So we've got JD Link controllers, as you can see there, in hundreds and thousands of machines. And it looks like a pretty unsuspecting machine controller, but that is essentially a mobile phone. So it's got a SIM card in it, paid for by ourselves for the lifetime of the unit, and it uses the mobile network in wherever it's situated to create a connection to the machine, and then it goes back through our servers to provide data transfer, whether it's to customers' phones, computers, or to the dealers as well. Importantly, to the dealers, which I'll be talking about, because they're the ones that are going to be monitoring those machines and making sure there's nothing too downtimely happening. So yeah, it's essentially, to sort of dumb it down, it is a mobile phone fitted into the roof of a machine, and it's collecting all of that information. It's connected to the CAN bus of the machine, and dependent on the type of information, you see a big tractor there. It could be a 150 horsepower tractor. It could be a 900 horsepower combine, or it could be a 25 horsepower gator. So depending on what kind of machine it is, there's going to be different data and information flowing around the CAN of that machine. Or if it's a machine without a CAN, like a gator or a piece of ground scale equipment, then it's going to be producing more limited data, like just simple GPS positioning, maybe ignition hours, and service interval information as well. So it's a highly capable controller to sort of provide all that information back to the dealer, back to the office, but also we can use it as a simple sort of tracking device as well. If we just go back in time a little bit as to the development timeline of JD Link, it was initially born out of a real desire from our engineers, from our factories, to monitor brand new machines that they were entering into the market. So if we go back to around about the sort of 10, 15 years ago, we had these controllers, albeit a lot bigger controllers than that picture I showed you, to connect the testing parts of our factory, the proving and testing centres, to machines that are out in the field with our test customers, so that they didn't have to be going all over the world to actually physically stand with that machine and work out how it's operating. We had telematics that could provide that information in near real time back to the factory and development centres. And we used, or we still coin a term called data-driven machine improvement, and that is still something that we do today. We collect machine data, and we use that data performance parameters to build better machines, to build on and improve on the current machine that we have based on the data that's telling us how it's performing. We then sort of commercialized that offering, that hardware, into a tracking and a fleet location service. So we had security and geofencing, so we could put a sort of geofence boundary around the operating perimeter of where a machine will be going, and a customer could be alerted if that machine were to leave that boundary. And in the early days, we had quite a number of cases where machine thefts occurred, and the geofence alerted the customer and the dealer to that theft, and we were able to recover those machines, because in those days, or certainly maybe 10 years ago, the thieves were a lot more unsuspecting as they are now, a bit less organized. So yeah, we had the location tracking function, but machine performance monitoring was still ever present. And again, that type of data, machine performance data, was then commercialized and became kind of a customer visible element of that telematics offering. So they could see how their own machine was operating, albeit at a much more limited data perspective, but we've certainly grown on that in recent years. We then moved across to really only in the last sort of 2 years into proactive and predictive data management. So the dealers becoming into that, or the dealers coming into that equation in more of a supportive manner, and they're able to proactively support that machine, but also use predictive AI and technology to work out if a machine is going to experience a failure or a repair event. So that really gives us a bit of foresight, gives the dealers a bit of foresight for their planning as well. And that's where John Deere Connected Support comes in. So, and again, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then going forward, having remote machine control is kind of the future of this development spectrum. We're not quite there yet, although we have got machines in test, and we've proved the technology is capable of controlling remote machines and autonomous machines. But the JD Link telematics, the cellular telematics technology, is the foundation through which we will achieve mass autonomous machines out in the field. So we're certainly pushing that technology out into the market now, getting lots and lots of machines connected with JD Link, and that gives us then a big park of machines then to build on, to give that additional function when it comes, and when the software, and when maybe even when the legislation comes to allow that kind of autonomous level agriculture. So yeah, we started really back in 2006 with the first sort of iterations of JD Link, but now we're 2019, 2020 into 21. We're really seeing the automation side of JD Link enabled features. So in terms of, I mentioned we've got a big park of machines out there with customers. We've got the highest population of connected machines in the industry, over 350,000 globally. And as I said before, that could be a big loading shovel from our construction side, a logging machine from a forestry side, or anything within agriculture and grounds care. So in terms of where do we offer JD Link? Well, in terms of our agricultural offerings, which is all I can speak to because we're just the agricultural side at Langer here. JD Link is standard in what we classify as large ag, so upwards of 125 horsepower in the R series tractors, so 6Rs, 7Rs, 8Rs, 9Rs. All of them now have JD Link as standard. Combine harvesters, forage harvesters, and self-propelled sprayers. So just blanket apply JD Link to all of them from the factory. As well as having an optional JD Link on 6M and 5M, so the smaller tractors. We've also recently, about 2 years ago, launched an intelligent GPS sprayer for turf and golf markets, and that comes as an option with JD Link as well. But really, that's me talking to you about what we do sort of from the factory. But actually, anything with a power supply, whether it's your Isuzu truck, it's got a 12-volt power supply, so we could put JD Link on that. We have a lot of our dealer technician vans and vehicles enabled with JD Link controllers as well, so that their service managers can track their location. So it's pretty universal. We can connect it to anything with power. It just depends what level of data you're going to get back from that. As I was saying earlier, if it's got a CAN, if it's got a compatible John Deere CAN on it, then we can most likely hook into that. But if it's maybe, dare I say, a non-green and yellow machine, we've certainly got a lot of retrofitted JD Link controllers on non-John Deere equipment, so that the customers that run our equipment can see their fleet on myjohndeere.com, but they can also see what other brands of kit they run as well. So it's universal in that respect. So what sort of data do we collect? Well, I can sort of simply put it into three buckets there. First one, machine performance data. So how is the machine operating? Simple things like litres per hour of fuel, percentage wheel slip, AdBlue consumption, lots of different stuff like that. Time spent in different engine load categories. There's lots of machine performance data that we can have. Then we've also got in the middle there service and maintenance info, so we can schedule services for machines, and the dealer can be alerted to when that machine needs to come in ahead of time, so we're not running over service intervals. And then we also have health monitoring and remote diagnostics. So depending on how much or how much you're willing to integrate with a dealer, you could be having, which a lot of our customers do, paying for a sort of advanced service, which may achieve you weekly or monthly machine health checks and running reports, maybe post-harvest, post-seasonal machine health reviews, things like that. So having that telematics allows the dealers to just remotely connect, get a little download of how that machine's operating, what it's done in the past month or 3-6 months, and then present that in sort of report form to the customer. So just having a look into machine performance data, I've listed a few of the different areas. So lots of information. You can imagine that a lot of information is running through the veins of that machine through the CAN bus, and a lot of that information we can pick up. A key one there is at the top, machine utilization. So if you can see here at the you can see here at the bottom right, I've just put a little screenshot there of a diagram. And machine utilization is something that we talk about and the dealers talk about in terms of, say you're doing 1,000 hours a year with your tractor, you're working it quite hard. If you were this top machine there you can see the blue, grey and orange bars there on the right hand side, how much of that 1,000 hours is hours spent idling, or how much of it is spent working, or how much of it is spent in transport mode? So we define those three categories of idling is, as you would expect, machine at tick over, engine idle speed, and not moving, and no PTO engaged. So it's sitting near enough sitting doing nothing. Working would be PTO engaged or moving up to 15 kilometers an hour, and then transport is classified as 15 kilometers an hour and upward, unless I think our self-propelled sprayers are categorized slightly differently, because you could be spraying at slightly faster than 15k if you've got the right sprayer. But that's generally our tractor utilization definition. And as I was saying, if you can then take an end of the year report or end of the month report and see actually that top one there says 39% of the time spent with my tractor has been idling, then that is a little insight into, oh crikey, we need to get the operators to turn that machine off when they go for lunch, or any other excuses, because time is money. Hours on a tractor's clock is money, and also it also contributes to depreciation, any additional warranty that you've got signed up. It's obviously fuel that's costing there to tick over at that rate. So that's a really simple breakdown of machine data that can provide to the user, the owner, and they can better manage how their machines are spending their time. So there's more data than that. There's a lot more data than that, but that's just a quick insight into what kind of performance data we can achieve. So yeah, plenty of screenshots. Service and maintenance information. So this can simplify the scheduling of service and maintenance work. So we have our extended warranty offering in PowerGuard, and our PowerGuard maintenance plans can be set up to synchronize with how many hours that machine is ticking over. So we can then set alerts to trigger when the machine is approaching those service intervals, so 5 hours or 10, 50 hours ahead, and then that allows the dealer service manager or the workshop manager to schedule in that interval, that service event in ahead of time, so that there's not time pressure on that event to take place, not time pressure on the customer. It gives more flexibility and more convenience to when that machine is going to be available to have the work done. And you know, as I said, we're not running over time and running over intervals, which could be costly. So it's simple, really. It's not really rocket science, but providing that data and that information at certain intervals is simple but very, very useful to our dealers. And in the past, we haven't had that sort of information. It relies on the customer to pick up the phone and say, oh, I've got an alert on my machine that says I'm 200 hours over my service. Well, actually, our dealers know that, or they know that they're 2 hours away from a service, 200 hours away from a service, and the power is in their hands to get that done in a timely manner. It might sound silly, but forward planning and workshop time planning is quite a big difficulty for dealerships, but and having this information alleviates that difficulty, really, for the most part anyway. And then finally, health monitoring and remote diagnostics. So our dealerships, being connected dealerships, can be granted access to advanced machine diagnostics. So we have a tool there called Service Advisor Remote, and that provides a remote access through Telematics, through JD Link, into the machine. Technicians can pull DTCs or diagnostic trouble codes, key information about the the trouble codes, the errors, the alerts that are taking place. In certain circumstances, they can actually push software as a resolution to those DCCs. They can recalibrate sensors. They can push software to sort of reset machine controllers. They can also use a system we call remote display access, or RDA, which allows them to, from whatever sort of connected device, phone, iPad, computer, wherever, they can call the display and they can actually see exactly what the operator is seeing on the screen. So that can aid with setup and things that the operator's not quite can't quite remember how to do something, or it's just not been trained on how to set up, the combine for its first trip back into the barley after a whole 12 months since he did last time, something like that. Planning visits as well. Obviously, we've got JD Link on the machine, so we know where the machines are. Some of our dealerships have got tracking on their vehicles, so the service managers know where the technicians are, and then the service managers can then plan what is the best use of technician A, B, or C to go to that customer, and they can even plan the routes as well of where those technicians are going to be going to do certain services, or in an emergency. They know the nearest person, and they know the machine locations of where to dispatch those people to go and make those repairs in time pressured situations. Yeah, and it's all about saving time spent on the road behind the wheel, because that is the least valuable time for a technician, really. So moving on from that, we also have a more of a salesy marketing side to our JD Link, a program called Fuel Guarantee. And basically, this is derived from some research that was done, some independent research that was done, showing that the single biggest running cost of an agricultural machine is fuel. And with JD Link, we can get that fuel information. We can get fuel consumption information, pretty accurate. And we sort of put our money on the line and say, if your machine does not achieve the fuel economy that we state for that model, for new machines, 6-cylinder tractors and above is our sort of park that we qualify. If it doesn't achieve a certain fuel rate, then we'll pay you back. If it's less efficient than what we state for that model, so let's take a 6250R, for example, 250 horsepower, 6,000 tractor. If that tractor does not achieve the stated fuel economy, so the fuel rate that we say, if it's burning more fuel than we say, we'll pay you 50 pence per litre for every litre you're burning over that stated fuel rate. And if actually the tractor is behaving more efficiently, or the driver is driving it more efficiently than that stated figure, then actually we'll pay you £1 per litre for every litre of fuel burnt underneath that stated fuel figure. So it actually pays more for the driver to drive more efficiently and burn less fuel. So that's for the first 12 months of a new tractor's life, if it is a 6 Series 6-cylinder, a 6 Series 6-cylinder tractor, or 7 or 8 wheeled machines. So we're paying out quite a lot of money, to be honest, because people get hold of this and they want to drive really, really sensibly and try and beat the figure. So as I said at the start, there's a lot of John Deere equipment that is going out with factory fitted JD Link. And we've also got a thing there on the right hand side, which is publicly available on our Deere.co.uk website, which is the total cost of ownership calculator, which allow you to compare the sort of, as I said, the stated fuel rates for those given tractor models, and compare against the industry average fuel rates for our competitors. So it could possibly aid in a customer's purchasing decision based on the running costs, which these days a lot of those decisions are more and more heavily biased towards how much it costs to run a tractor rather than necessarily the purchase price of the tractor. So moving on then, moving on then into product improvement and development. As I mentioned briefly earlier, we use this JD-Link data, this machine performance data in our product improvement and development programs. And as I mentioned, that data-driven machine improvement is probably the most important. We do have the commercial offering, the customer visible information of machine performance, but actually this data is gold to us, to our engineers, to our developers, to build tractors in a better way. So lots of different things they're measuring. It's all anonymized, aggregated data as well. So there may be, as I said there's over 350,000 connected machines out there globally, but there may be of the 7R variety, there may be, 30,000 of them, for example. I'm not sure what the number is, but the amount of data we are able to get back from those machines, if they're connected, and the factory is able to see aggregated versions of that data, they see a general picture of how those machines are performing, what common errors are occurring, so what things they need to change next time around for the next model year updates, to get a better customer experience, but also just build a better machine for all parties involved. We have a few things that we run constantly, not just for say the first year of a machine, but constantly. The first one of which for the first sort of shortest period of time is as EDPR, early detection and problem resolution. So JD-Link helps us to be aware of those things that are starting to reoccur in new machine models that we've released, and the EDPR process allows our dealers to pick up that information, feed it back to our EDPR team, and then they're able to sort of suffocate those sorts of commonly recurring problems that are seeing on multiple machines that they might see as a bit of a, oh no, this is in every machine, and they might be coming up with PIPs or product improvement programs that can sort of suffocate those issues and fix it permanently. We've also got expert alerts, which I'll come on to a little bit later, which is gathering diagnostic information and sending recommendations to the dealers to go and perform service work, repair work to the machine before it leads to a more time consuming and costly breakdown. And then we've had something called DTAC, or Dealer Technical Assistance Center, for a long time now. Any technician, any service person in John Deere or in the dealer service world can enter a DTAC case, and that is on a global database of cases and solutions, and that shares that information globally with all of our dealers, and you might be able to get a solution that a dealer in Brazil has found for a certain type of tractor, and the factory have been able to provide a solution. You search for your problem or your model or the part number of a controller, and somebody may have seen a solution for that already and fixed it, and you can have that information shared with you as a technician in Lincolnshire. Just a word then about data privacy and security. It's of real importance to us at John Deere, and it is of real focus at the moment with the fines that could be imposed to companies like ourselves, but also dealers that are dealing in that data as well, are very hefty, and we need to be the right side of the line when it comes to dealing with customer data. So just to bust a few myths that are out there, things that are out in the media, we as a company We don't sell data. We don't take data without asking, and we don't abuse the use of customer information. So whether it's on JD-Link, our website, whether it's terms of consent to use the machine data that if you buy a machine, the data that it's creating, the fuel per hectare information, the tons per acre information of a combine, all that information is your information as a customer. So really, we have to ask to use that data. We have to get written consent. So we tread the line very carefully when it comes to data privacy and security. Okay, so coming into John Deere Connected support, just got a video there to show one of our service managers up in Scotland and North England to describe how John Deere Connect support works in his dealership.
So we at Thomas Sheriff can proactively support our customers by remote machine monitoring. We can do this using a unique John Deere tool called Expert Alerts. This predicts machine failures before the machine actually stops. Alongside this, we monitor trouble codes using Machine Dashboard. We research these codes using Service Advisor Remote when the machine is still operational. Alongside that, we have Operations Centre to track the location, and with our technician scheduler system, we can arrange a time to come to the farm and assist you at a time that's convenient and offer a one-stop service.
So a quite clean looking service manager's desk there from Neil at Sheriff's, but really that shows how many different systems the connected dealerships are juggling just to keep on top of connected support. So they've got the machine dashboard there. Well, I'll run through this slide actually. They've got Service Advisor Remote, which the service manager or all the technicians can use to dial remotely into a machine and find out the trouble codes or send software, or remotely access the display of the machine. Also got the expert alerts that are running in the background to monitor the machine performance and work out if anything bad is going to happen, if it hasn't already. They've got Machine Dashboard as well, which is a dealer-only sort of interface, which allows them to best prioritize work that needs to be done, whether it's service work or immediate repair work, based on the urgency and the different priority levels. So that in the background is helping power dealers to make the right decisions and do the right work at the right time, basically. So when it comes to expert alerts, I won't explain it too much because I've got a good video that explains it as well after this slide. But essentially, it uses the JD-Link data that's collected, as I've said, and it has intelligent algorithms in the background. So machines are constantly transmitting the data of how they're running, and the expert alerts algorithms, the big brain in the background in the server, tracks this information with a fine-tooth comb. It's got loaded into it basically a load of information of historical events that have occurred, and the kind of the related diagnostic information that occurred with those historical failures. And if it sees anything that it recognizes, basically, that series of events led to a breakdown back a few years ago on this kind of machine, then it will send an alert to the dealer to say, this downtime event is likely to happen. We've seen it before on this customer's machine. This is the course of action that we recommend to repair. It could be a sensor, it could be anything, it could be software. Go and do that. Here's the information about how to fix it, and you can avoid a costly and time-consuming repair by doing a smaller repair a little bit earlier. So I will once again hand over to the video to do a bit better explaining than I can.
Hi there, Mike. I just received an expert alert for one of your customers' tractors. It's something to do with the fuel system. Could be a sensor or something. If I send the details through, are you happy to give them a call to get resolved?
Okay, no problem. I'll give them a call now.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you then. Cheers, Mike. Bye-bye.
Hi, it's Mike calling from Farrell. I've just had an expert alert come through on your 8RT. The problem with the fuel system. We have the pressure sensor in stock that it needs. I could get a man out to you around about lunchtime when your man stops for a bite to eat. Yep, no, I can see you on JD Link. That's no problem. He'll be there at lunchtime. Thank you.
Well, Jerry. Hi, Rupert. As you know, you've had an expert alert on your machine. I did a remote connection at base, and it's looking like this sensor's about to fail, so brought it with me, and I'll get it fixed for you as soon as I can.
Excellent. I'll go and have my dinner.
Brilliant.
I've not even finished my coffee yet.
Well done, mate. The advantage of me being a connected tech is that I could actually remotely connect to a machine and gather any information and fault codes before I leave for the job, which will enable me to get any parts that I may need and fix the tractor in one hit.
So yeah, well, that's one of our dealers in England there, Farrell. And although not all alerts or expert alerts and repair events can be avoided within the space of a mug of coffee, it kind of explains the concept behind the expert alerts technology. And if you assume on the top row here, we've got a connected machine powered by expert alerts in the background. They get a warning, an expert alert. The technician's empowered with the information, the right parts, maybe being able to fix that problem in one visit to the machine, minimizing the downtime, doing it in one hit, like Jerry said, and yeah, it minimizes the disturbance and the inconvenience to the customer as well, especially in busy periods. So it gets repaired quicker. Compare that to a not connected machine. You need to work out, maybe even go to the machine to see what's wrong, go back to the dealership to pick up the parts, maybe even order the parts, wait for them to arrive. And it could be multiple visits. And it's a bit longer for that machine to actually be fixed. So that's where we've got the advantage with John Deere Connected support. So moving away from sort of machine data, diagnostic data, that sort of thing, into agronomic data, which is more my sort of qualification. So with myjohndeere.com, which is our free-to-use platform, our portal, we've got a tool in there called the Operations Center. And this is where we can manage a lot of information when it comes to fields and crops, varieties and that side of things, rather than, although we can manage the machine data in there as well, this is a different dimension of data coming from the customers. So this is myjohndeere.com into Operations Center, met with a map. So that's our That's my account there from Langer with all of our demo machines and backup machines as well. And you can see on there the machine flags where they are. You can also see maybe some specks of colour across the map as well, and that denotes the different field boundaries, so the work that's been done, the operational layers of information that's layered onto the map. And if you see down there in the bottom left-hand side, there's a legend there which categorises the different types of operation that have been done. So brown means a tillage job, seeding is green, blue is for application, whether chemical or spray or fertilizer, and then orange for harvest. So 4 different general operational categories of layers, and then we can go into those different field boundaries and see the events that occurred in each field boundary. We've also got a big list of tools there as well, but I won't dwell on it too much. It's a very powerful platform with lots of different things from being able to build a field boundary, draw a field boundary, plot a guidance line, to building a prescription for an application or for a drilling job, send information to the machine so we can build a prescription, record a field boundary, plot a guidance line, mark hazards in the field with flags, package that all into a file, and then remotely send it to the tractor, and then they've got all the information they need, even the variety of the crop that they're trying to drill, all that information, and all they've got to do is apply that file to their screen, and there's no need for any data entry from the operator's perspective because it's all been kind of plotted and prepared in the office. Likewise, if they want to put that information in the screen themselves, they can then send that information back to my John Deere, and then we can visualize it here on the operations center. So just a little zoom in there, you can see we've got a couple of farm blocks there, orange meaning that they are harvest jobs. So this is a farm that very kindly let us use their fields, their farm blocks for a training exercise with some combines, and we were able to get all of the yield data from those fields. So we harvested it with yield mapping enabled combines and JD Link. So you can see on the left hand side we've got an agronomic data panel. We've got obviously a colourful yield map in the middle, and then along the bottom we've got a timeline of events that have occurred as well. So there's a couple of events there. There's the harvest that we're looking at, and then we've also got a brown job later on at the back end of August, which is the tillage. So they were cultivating that stubble afterwards. And then fast forwarding into 2020, we've got seeding jobs, application jobs that have occurred as well. So we've got a nice pretty picture of the yield map there, and a legend showing us how that field performed in different areas. But we can also zoom in to the subfield level, and we can get much more data about how did a certain area of a certain field perform. Obviously that's a gateway there, so there's going to be a little bit of red there, but it's a good example of being able to zoom into a field's performance and make decisions based on how that crop yielded and how it performed that year. We can also go back years and years, so the more data you've got, the more yield maps you've got, the better of a trend you can pull out of that data. And it may be that you need to be drilling at a higher seed rate in certain area of a field. It may be that you need to be putting more fertilizer on. It may be that you need to stop cropping that field altogether because it's just a loss-making area. So it's data-driven insights based on the layers of information that we can produce from our machinery. So it's all helpful stuff, and it powers decision-making from the customer's perspective. As I said, we can do multiple years there. So we've got a 2019 wheat harvest on the left, and then a 2017 wheat harvest on the right. So 2019 seemed to yield ever so slightly better on average, but we got more tonnage off the field in 2017. So all of that information is useful to the farmer and maybe to the agronomist as well, and that's shareable as well. So another layer there, we've got an elevation map, so we can see that the higher above sea level side of the field, does that have any bearing on the yield of the field when it comes to drainage, when it comes to runoff, when it comes to maybe a more clayey, cloggy bottom corner of the field? Is that going to impact the yield? Or maybe it looks like it might have done there in the very bottom corner there. So again, I'm stressing the point, but there's lots of information that can be taken off the field. It's not just crop that we're taking off the field, it's data layers as well. So that's as important, because we want to get the most out of that field and the most out of those inputs that we're putting into the field. And then a note on kind of the accessibility of that information. So that was on, we're looking there on the website, on the operations center on a computer. We've also got an app as well, so you can have that information on the go, and that's called the My Operations app. And it's just all of that information in app format. So again, you've got a yield map there, you've got all the agronomic information, the yield totals and stuff from a field. We can even remote display access from the app. So from your mobile phone, from your tablet, you can call a machine and view the display that the operator is seeing on that machine. You can't actually make any changes, make any control edits to that machine. You're just viewing the machine. But it does give a good insight. So a dealer could be supporting, the technician could be supporting another customer whilst they're on the first job of the day, because they can do it through the phone or through the iPad or something. It's all shareable as well, so you can text, PDF, email, WhatsApp this yield map, for example, straight to your agronomist, and that makes it much more real-time data. You don't have to wait until your your office day at the end of the week or at the end of the month or whatever, or the end of harvest even. As you see on the right hand side, we've got machine position, we've got location history, kind of breadcrumb trail of where that machine's been, and also you can link with the arrow there. That will link into Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever it is. So from the My Operations app, you can click and it will direct you, satellite navigation, guide you straight to the machine to get straight to it. So. Again, that's a free app. JD Link is free to use. Operation Center is free to use. Obviously, the only thing that's not free is getting the machine that you fitted JD Link to. So all of our digital solutions really are free to use, but more beneficial once you've got the technology to track, I guess. So with that, just in time, that's it from me. Thank you very much. And yeah, welcome any questions. I'll just go back to the forum there.
Okay, well, thank you very much there, Jack. We have got some coming in now. Charlie, first on the questions there.
Okay, yeah, I've got that one up there. Yeah, okay, so to Charlie, great question. I'll just read it out for the benefit of everyone. A big criticism I often hear from farmers is about system compatibility between brands. There's been some collaboration just lately. Do you see a future standardization on fleet farm management systems similar to what was done with Isobus in the past? So yeah, absolutely. There is actually a new level of Isobus in development called Isobus TIM or TIM, which stands for Tractor Implement Management, and that is another kind of tier of compatibility to the Isobus standard, whereby multiple brands of manufacturers of tractors, implements, GPS terminals, screens, receivers, whatever, can build their software to Isobus TIM specification, and that would state that they will be all working on the same or working off the same hymn sheet and they are compatible. So that is actually on the way in 2021. We are just about to do some marketing about all of our machines being TIM ready. So we're already developing for that, but I know that a lot of the big players are working towards that as well. There are a number of other things as well. So we've got obviously the ISO XML data format, which is quite common. We often get difficulty with shapefile, because one person's shapefile is another person's, something else. So that creates a bit of confusion when it comes to compatibility. It definitely does it does rely on creators of data and manufacturers of controllers to kind of, if they say they're going to do it to ISO XML or shapefile so and so, then to actually build it to the right regulations. And there's a lot of kind of deviating from the line in that respect. Hope that answers your question, Charlie. As ag machinery gets larger and particularly wider, clearly the data collected becomes lower resolution across the fields, particularly in terms of harvest yields. Are you using AI to fill in the gaps? Good question. Yeah, there is a balance to be struck there when it comes to, if you've got a 20-foot platform on a combine, a header on a combine, you're obviously going to get an average yield data across 20 foot. Or then if you move to a massive combine with a 45-foot header, it's averaging that data across 45 foot, and 10 foot in from the left side of the header might be a completely different yield to 10 foot in from the right side of the header. So you are going to lose that granularity of yield data the wider you go, absolutely, until we get to a point where, and actually, interestingly, I did hear of a test that was done on the John Deere side of actually doing little weighers in the back of in the platform of the header to actually get more accurate yield data for every 50 centimeters of the platform. And you can imagine how heavy that header was and how much technology it took to drive it. But we're kind of going the other way. And I think a few other brands are doing the same when it comes to predictive sort of load matching. So using maybe it's NIR technology to look at the yield ahead before it goes through the header, and building some sort of a yield map that way. But when it comes to just all that crop that's going from 40 foot through like a 3 foot feeder house, there's nothing that we can do to actually separate what that area yielded, unfortunately. So again, hopefully that answers Henry's question. How much data megabytes is generated per clock hour on a tractor? Oh, that's a great question. I really don't know. It's a lot less than you would think, Graham, I would say. A lot of that data is really, really low level noughts and ones and dots and dashes that are converted into liters and percentages and whatever on our dashboard, and the server really takes the greatest weight of that data storage. When it comes, when it's on a tractor, that information can be cleared and that cache can be removed, so it's not bearing a huge weight on the can, for example. But the storage capacity of one of our armrest displays in a tractor or a combine is I don't think it's even like a terabyte. It's quite small, and it's never filled up, even with yield maps and field totals and stuff like that. It's never filled up. So I think I don't really know, but I would say it's probably a lot less than you think with data today. Over time, with increased
just wondering
support,
how big the servers were, Jack. That was all.
Well, yeah.
If you're tracking 350,000 machines across the world, you're going to have a heck of a data cloud.
And the servers that we have, we went into partnership with Amazon for our servers over in Russia. They have to have the servers in Russia because they're quite protective. Then we've got them in China, India, Brazil, America, and these big server villages that occur on massive industrial estates. I mean, we're nothing in comparison to the likes of what maybe BMW, Mercedes would have, or Amazon, people like that. So yeah, we buy our server space. We can't build it ourselves. Where were we on that one? Over time, with increased service support, what is the data set that will be used to inform the decision-making system, alerting imminent problem? Martin, your question, I guess you're talking about expert alerts, maybe.
It was if you've got the predictive before it breaks, we'll mend it. Systems in place, for want of simple words, you end up running. I think you potentially run out of data to inform this is when things break, because everybody gets there before they break. Yeah,
very true. Very true. I guess there will always be an element of our customers' machines that are not connected, and those alerts will, those errors, those problems, those downtime, repairs, breakdowns will still occur, and we have to gain that information, do those CAN downloads, diagnostics, extracts after the events have happened. So we're still going to recover data that way. But yeah, you're right. Stopping stuff from happening before it happens means that nothing happens, I guess. But the more that we can do that, I guess the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is no breakdowns happening because we've been able to prevent them all. But there's certainly going to be a balance in there somewhere. Is the usage categorization algorithm ran on the controller to reduce data transfer? Great question. Again, technical one. I think it is done on a server. I don't think the utilization categorization is done at the machine level, because we use the same, we call it an MTG, that silver controller, use the same MTG or modular telematic gateway on all machines. So that is just the sort of transmission, the data transfer kind of medium. That's just a data sender. It's not really the collector. So I guess the data dissemination will be done on the server side. In answer to Jake, so Ian, I'd like to move to using 5G technology and RTK GPS. Activities. 5G certainly being explored. I don't know where we are with that in terms of coming to market. At the moment, 4G, we have 2G, 3G, and 4G MTGs controllers, and that is providing, in all honesty, for us, quick enough transfer. Even when you're viewing a machine's display, you've maybe got a 1 second lag, which is, for all intents and purposes, is good enough, really. 5G would speed things up exponentially, but I'm not sure what benefit it would get. I'm sure we are going to bring out a 5G network, but I'm not sure what it's going to look like, to be honest. On the RTK side, we're just using RTK for guidance, for correction signal and accuracy, for machine guidance. We're not using that for data transmission. We do have a mobile RTK solution, which is kind of a hybrid correction signal that uses the mobile network to provide a position data and triangulation. but again, that's for machine guidance, not for data transmission. When it comes to your second question, how effective are these remote farms and countryside? In the UK, it might surprise some people, but we are very lucky with our phone signal coverage. And if you put yourself in the shoes of like a Brazilian farmer or an Argentinian farmer, the network that they have, the cell network that they have out there is non-existent. So our JD Link product doesn't live. It has to wait. Well, it does live, but it has to wait until that machine comes into a Wi-Fi area, maybe the yard or like a satellite farm, for it to then send that information back to the servers, because they're out farming their however many acre, hundreds of acre fields out in the middle of Brazil. There's no cell coverage there, so they can't do data transmission. So we're having to look into other ways of getting that data and getting that real-time connection to machines. So Paul, how hard do you push the reduction in idle time? Doing this is great for the farmer, but extends service intervals, reducing dealer service income. Yeah, great question. It's a good way of looking at it. There's always, and we've done this in a number of times, we've taken certain customer case studies, like big fleet operators, big veg work customers. We did one case study where a customer had 200 tractors out in Norfolk veg land. And of those 200 machines, I think 31 of them were all 6 140M tractors. And on average, they were running at about 33% idle time across 31 identical tractors, all the same age. And we were able to advise that customer. They implemented a driver incentive scheme where they just pinned the £20 note to the notice board in the mess room and said, whoever gets the least idle time for the next week gets a 20 quid note. And literally in, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks, they brought their average idle time of those 6M tractors from 33% down to 22%. So they reduced it in 11. And then we did a calculation for them, calculating the money it cost to burn that fuel, or to not burn that fuel, should we say, the depreciation, the rental, blah 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 blah, and it was tens of thousands of pounds. You're right when it comes to the dealer side of things. It's extending those service intervals. To how much, if you were to add it up, would it affect? It might even alleviate dealers in terms of the pressure that they're under. But again, with all things, there's going to be a balance, but there's always going to be a certain amount of idle time for a machine, and we're yet to see this kind of, really in general, yet to see this sort of sub 15% idle time on machines, because that would really require you to be turning the machine off, when you sat at a junction, which is not practical. So there's always going to be a certain amount which you can't get away from. So we're just trying to provide that insight, which is going to marginally reduce customers' expenditure on those sorts of things, and hopefully the value that they get from that will kind of translate into some sort of loyalty to the products, really. I know dealers can remotely update software, but is it likely that machines will allow automatic software updates in the near future? Yeah, we do that as well. We do automatic software updates. A lot of those software updates will download to the machine as the customer's working, and then it will alert the customer as to, we've downloaded this build to your screen. Upload it when you're not drilling. Upload it when you've got 20 minutes for it to take shape on the screen. So a lot of that stuff does take place. A lot of that software can be downloaded, whatever controller it is. If it's a controller that's not being used, then it could be pushed without the customer knowing. Just lost the chat there. Hopefully that answers your question, Charlie. So Alex, do you see the use of data over the lifetime of the tractor being a selling feature of the unit the care service has received? Yeah, that's an interesting one, Alex. Some of our dealers are doing that. They're able to provide almost like a proof behind the statement of it's had one careful owner, if that makes sense. You know, you see that in cars, one careful owner. How much do you believe it? I don't know. But we've got the data to back it up. The only issue that we have when it comes to being able to prove that and show somebody the data is that data that you're trying to prove is actually belongs to the previous owner of the tractor. So when you own a tractor and you do things, you operate the tractor, you create data, that's your data. If you're trying to sell it, we'd have to ask you, Alex, are you okay if we show a potential buyer of your tractor the data that you created? So that's a dilemma that comes into it with data privacy and who owns the information. But yes, some of our dealers are able to do that, and they're kind of trialing that kind of idea, improving the worth and also the service history of a machine as well. To run autonomous vehicles requires 100% connectivity. Is cellular communication good enough to support this, or you have to move to satellite-based telematics system? Right now, I think the trials that we've been doing have been over cellular connection, and yes, it does rely on the quality of the cellular connection. I guess the approval of the legislation to allow such product to be sold would require a fail-safe kind of machine stall process or machine kind of standby mode to take effect if it lost connection. So if it temporarily lost service, it would have to come to a stop safely, turn things off, idle things, in order for it to be, regarded as safe by whoever's writing the regulation. So that is something that was looked into. And when it comes to, like, for example, we've done stuff on golf machines, on golf mowers, where the machine, if somebody walks in front of the machine or an animal walks in front of the machine that's trying to mow a green, for example, it's got sensors, it knows something's there, it stands by, and if that obstacle persists in the path of that machine, then it will turn off the cylinder mowers and it will downgrade the engine revs. I guess eventually turn off, I don't know, but then if that moves, it will continue and finish the job, and then it will go and park itself next to the green or on the path or something and wait for the next job. So there are contingency plans in place for all this stuff, but it's a good catch, really. It does rely on a stable cell connection, and maybe that's where 5G comes into it, because that will be a more real-time, more local kind of network for it to latch onto and maybe be more reliable. Are you able to update the machine software remotely to upgrade the machinery, much like updates on your phone? Do you find it encouraging? Well, firstly, to that question, Henry, yeah, absolutely. We have software updates for like the armrest displays or the bolt-in guidance displays to our tractors, and software updates bring new features. So we're currently on what we call Gen 4, our fourth generation of displays, whether it's the one that's built onto the armrest inside a cab, or whether it's the mobile sort of removable version of that Gen 4. We have software updates 3 times a year, all which bring bug fixes and edits, but also new features as well, and modifications to existing features to make them better and do more things. So yeah, that's definitely what we do, whether it's on machine controllers or whether it's on, like I said, guidance displays. Do you find that encouraging customers to drive efficiently in terms of fuel and paying out associated cost per litre is beneficial in terms of savings on paying warranty bills? Maybe in the big data sets that we gain from that, maybe something like that is associated. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think when it comes to the fuel guarantee program, it really is a kind of promotional marketing statement to say, look, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We know how we've got so many connected machines. We know how well that model of tractor performs in its fuel efficiency, and we know it so well that we will guarantee it based on this amount of money. And that kind of confidence in the product translates to a kind of a likelihood, an increased likelihood of a customer to try it out and challenges on it. So it started off with that sort of a tactic, but I guess those links could be made in terms of warranty. I'm not sure if we're doing that, to be honest. So I think that's all the questions. I'm happy to stay for any other ones if anyone has anything. But yeah. Once again, thank you very much.
Okay, right, Jack, thank you ever so much for your most interesting talk and yeah, fielding the questions most expertly, shall we say. Yeah, thank you ever so much for that. I would say, well, I think if we just sort of show our appreciation in however we do now, sort of remotely and socially distanced and all the rest of it. But thank you very much on behalf of the group, of the audience, for your presentation. And so I can't remember the details for our next meeting, I must admit. I tried to sort of find it on my machine, but failed there. So I don't know whether Dave's got.
It's supposedly a speaker from the Environment Agency, but it's yet to be confirmed.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
I would just like to say a word of thanks to Jack. Yes, recently doing lectures on using Teams and Zooms and things like that. It is extremely difficult compared to doing face-to-face. So yeah, that was an excellent presentation, Jack. And yeah, we appreciate just how difficult it is to do it remotely.
Well, we've done plenty of it since March, so I'd like to think I'm well practiced, but thank you very much nonetheless.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's nothing more, then I'll draw the meeting to a close.